Thank you for inviting me to this important conference. It's great to be with you and the other prominent speakers today to discuss the alarming deterioration of human rights in Iran and appropriate responses from the UK to address the regime's current and past human rights violations and abuses. As former president of the TUC, I want to alert all trade unions, and I want them to understand the issues and inform their millions of members of the real situation in Iran. The 1988 massacre of 30,000 political prisoners was not only a crime against humanity, but a concentrated campaign planned by the regime in advance to annihilate the opposition and any dissenting views. The mass executions were so vicious and horrendous that the second man in Iran at the time, the supreme leader in waiting, the late Ayatollah Montazeri, protested the executions in letters to Khomeini, the supreme leader at the time. And in the audio recording of a meeting held in 1988 between high-level state officials and clerics, which was published in August 2016, Montazeri addressed these officials who were members of the death committee that oversaw the massacre and said, in my opinion, the greatest crime committed under the Islamic Republic from the beginning of the revolution until now is this crime committed by you, members of the judicial system, in my opinion, the greatest crime committed during the Islamic Republic, for which history will condemn us. Your names will be in future etched in the annals of history as criminals. For his protest and opposition, Montazeri was stripped of his senior position by Khomeini and banned completely from the political arena until his death. In contrast, one of the clerics in that meeting, Raisi, who was heavily involved in carrying out the massacre, is now the head of the judiciary in Iran. And another one, Pourmar Mohammadi, served as the justice minister in Rouhani's cabinet. This clearly shows that the regime in Iran today needs criminal perpetrators and mass murderers like Raisi to hold on to power. It also proves that repression and executions are the foundations of the theocratic rule in Iran. I myself and my wife were possible victims of Iranian plans in June 2018 in Paris and in July 2019 in Albania. Albanian agents tried to destroy the conferences of solidarity. The perpetrators, or the intended perpetrators, are now in jail, and in Brussels the first set are being tried. But this is an example of how state terror has no borders for the Iranian regime. We see at the same time a terrible crackdown on the workers of the Iranian industries. For example, the Haftaper sugar cane workers and the Iranian oil and gas workers have been on nationwide strikes for several weeks to protest unpaid wages, unsafe working environment, and poor living conditions. The strikes taking place in over 12 provinces and is reminiscent of the last months leading up to the downfall of the Shah's dictatorship. So Iranian society is on the verge of an explosion against the ruling regime. The authorities know this better than anyone and are terrified of popular protests. So they are arresting and intimidating the workers who are on strike for demanding their basic rights and wages, similarly as the authorities did when they killed 1,500 after the 2019 November protests. So without international actions and intervention, which the other speakers have called for, there is a risk that the regime's judiciary, led by the mass murderer Raisi, will resort to another campaign of secret mass executions in Iran's prisons to quell the growing popular dissent. The international community cannot allow history to repeat itself in this respect. That's why I believe that the UK, which historically has played a decisive role in human rights matters, should get involved and secure an international investigation into the 1988 massacre and the ongoing crackdown today of protesters and workers. The UK government must demand the immediate release of all political prisoners and arrested protesters, and press the UN to immediately send a fact-finding mission to Iran to visit them and investigate recent reports of torture and other ill treatment. Today, the interests of the UK and the democratic aspirations of the Iranian people converge, and that is why the UK government must stand with the Iranian people and not side with the regime. We must show solidarity. Thank you.